That's really the goal of Steamboat Ready. And one way that we are putting this out there is through these webinars. Today, the main focus is going to be, our main presentation is going to be Rex Brice on behalf of the restaurant industry. But before we get into that, we will do a few updates from the some of the partners that participate in Steamboat Ready, including the city, the county, Ski Corps, and the chamber, and then from a few other industry sectors as well. So welcome, thank you for joining us. And I'm going to hand it over to Scott Kalman first. He is our Environmental Health Director at Routt County.
Thanks, Kara, and thanks for the introduction. You know, since this started, we've been heavily involved, and we've actually shifted some of our work away from regular functions to help support public health and mitigations for COVID-19, being a part of the Emergency Operations Center. And as things have progressed and restaurants have opened up, we began resuming our restaurant inspections, and then also monitoring for mitigation protocols, and that's really been an education and outreach effort, not just with restaurants, but also with local businesses. We've also been heavily involved with pushing out information to restaurants and retail food establishments about changing guidelines and changing conditions, and also financial assistance. We have been heavily involved in addressing complaints and questions from the community, and have assisted the state with development of guidelines and the Board of Health, and also heavily involved in event reviews for the community. And we also have a team of people out in the community with help from the city of Steamboat, who are monitoring businesses and monitoring mitigation protocols. So those partnerships are important, and we'll continue to do that and hope that things get better as soon as they can. I think that sums it up pretty well.
Thanks, Scott. One thing that I definitely wanted to make sure that everybody knew, Scott and the team at the county, as well as the city staff and chamber staff as well, but have been resources for people. It's, you know, sometimes it's hard to digest all of the written guidelines, and have been, Scott and his team, I would say in particular with restaurants, have been really helpful to, like, let's talk. How can we make this work? How can I help you put a plan together? So thank you, Scott, for doing that. We really appreciate it. And next up, and if anybody does have questions throughout, please feel free to ask them. We'll have all panelists stay on. So if you have questions for main presenter Rex or any of our other presenters, just pop those in the chat. Next up, Jason Lacey, our City Council President, and also thanks to you and your the team at the city, because they've also been, you know, not just a broad stroke helping out with businesses, but trying to make it more individualized. So thank you guys for that.
Absolutely. All right, thanks, Kara. So quick update from the city. We've been working through our 2021 budget, and things are thankfully looking much better than they did earlier in the year. We've had a pleasantly surprising summer on the sales tax front, and it looks like we're going in that same direction for the fall. So with that, while we're still we're calling ourselves cautiously optimistic for the upcoming year, and with that said, we are now looking at a situation where we're going to be using a little bit less reserves out of our reserve fund. We're going to be able to pull our employees back to full-time employment, so we can provide full service levels, which we haven't been able to do for some time now. So that's great. And one of the discussions we had last month was on transit. We were concerned that we might be eliminating or reducing the blue and orange line, but it looks like now we're going to be able to keep that in place, which is great. Obviously, transit is going to be a big issue as we roll into the winter season. On that front, we did hear we saw last week from the governor's office that they released some draft guidance for ski areas and resorts, and part of those guidelines focused on public transportation provider guidelines. And so we do still have some concerns there. What we're seeing right now, the draft guidance is showing that they are going to be recommending that we basically keep 6 feet of space from everyone on a bus, and that would mean approximately 20% vehicle capacity. That would obviously be a very difficult for us to manage, especially if we have anywhere near normal visitation this winter. So our representative agency, CASTA, the Colorado Association of Transit Agencies, they have been working on a white paper that they are going to present to the governor's office and CDPHE and CDOT tomorrow, actually. And they've been working on this for some time now with some different recommendations based on capacity, cleaning and disinfecting protocols, and operational procedures. The cleaning and disinfecting and operational procedures, they're basically in alignment with the governor's office, but they do, based on what they've seen over the past 6 or 7 months, they have some different recommendations on capacity. And they are really focusing their recommendations to the governor's office based on where we are on the COVID dial. So if it's really based on whether we're at safer at home level 1, 2, or 3, or whether we move to the protect our neighbor phase, or if we were ever to be, which hopefully we never are, back in the stay at home phase. So, and they're also looking at their recommendations based on trip length. So if it's a trip on a round trip that's less than 15 minutes, they have a little bit more loose capacity. And then if it's a 15-minute or more trip, then they're going to have a little bit tighter capacity. But just for example, CASTA, what they're recommending to the governor's office, we're at safer level at home level 1, safer at home level 1 right now. If the governor's office accepts the recommendations of CASTA, then that would mean for trip lengths of less than 15 minutes, then they would recommend 100% of seated capacity and 75% of seated capacity. So we'll see where those discussions go. Obviously, masks would still be required. They would be focusing on good ventilation and all those sorts of things. But this is going to be really important as we move forward into the winter season. So we'll keep a close eye on that and see if there's any change to the governor's and CDPHE's guidance based on the discussions with CASTA and how transit might look this winter. Couple other quick updates. We, on Tuesday night, City Council extended the ordinance for allowing alcohol consumption in certain downtown parks and the downtown right-of-way. We extended that through April 30th. That basically gets the businesses through the winter season. And, really this has really been a key component for our restaurants to allow the to-go drinks. And according to our police department, we've had literally 0 issues with this. There was some concern with that in the beginning, but we've literally had 0 issues, and just trying to do what we can to help the restaurants stay in business and keep going. So looking forward to that. Going through April 30th, planning is also working with the businesses on temporary structures, tents, yurts, and things like that to allow for some more additional outdoor seating and opportunities for people to use some outdoor space this winter. So hopefully that will be good for some of our businesses as well. And then lastly, the city, with some of its CARES Act dollars it received, we purchased some cleaning supplies for the business community. And those are going to be distributed through, I believe Main Street is going to handle the distribution on those items. And hopefully that will help. I know that's been obviously a big expense for a lot of the business community, and just trying to help out where we can there and hopefully help them continue through this interesting situation that we're dealing with. So that's my update for now, Kara.
Thanks, Jason. Appreciate it. It's hopeful. Good to hear that there might be a chance for at least those shorter trips to have a higher occupancy. Thank you for continuing to working on the transportation game plan for this year. Really appreciate it. Next up, I'm going to invite Rob Spence. He is the VP for Food and Beverage at the Steamboat Ski Resort.
There we go. Thanks, Kara. Thanks for the opportunity, and also a big thanks to you for bringing together the restaurant community on our biweekly calls. Great dialogue and just great sharing of information and best practices. So greatly appreciated. I'm happy to report that the plan today is that we're going to operate all 17 restaurants at the Mountain and Haymaker for the coming winter. We've also got a couple of exciting additions for this year. We purchased a 4,800 square foot sprung structure that we'll be locating up adjacent to the Rendezvous Lodge at the top of South Peak Lift. We're calling it South Peak Heights. And that will be an opportunity to provide grab and go as well as a warming area for guests that will be challenged to accommodate in some of the larger food courts with our 50% capacity reduction. So that work is quickly proceeding. We anxiously await the arrival of that structure and look forward to hosting everyone in that soon. Second, based on the success that we've had the last couple of years with our Taco Beast cat, we are adding a new business to our portfolio. We're calling it Pizza Ranger. And the Pizza Ranger will give people an opportunity to mobile advance order pizza using our contactless new mobile ordering system to be rolled out soon, which will allow people to again advance order and pick up a pizza on the mountain. So all contactless and all mobile. Supporting that, we've done some work at Basher. For those that are familiar with Basher, we have tried to winterize it just a little bit more with some additional screening and additional wind barriers. Not totally winterized, but certainly another opportunity that we're creating for people to get out of the environment a little bit and both warm up and also have a food option on the mountain. As I mentioned, our lodges will, for the most part, operate at 50% capacity. That the large ones on the mountain, we'll have hosts that will greet our guests at each of those large lodges, and we'll be controlling access in and out, obviously to stay in accordance with our county guidelines as far as capacities and occupancies go. The scramble areas will be closed. We're looking at offering QR codes on each of the tables that will be supported by our new mobile app ordering device. And from the comfort of your table, you'll be able to place your order, and then we'll have food runners that will bring food to the tables and all of the lodges. So that's the plan. All food courts are going to be open 30 minutes earlier than they have been in years past to try to stretch that lunch period even further so that we can accommodate as many guests as possible. The rest of our full service restaurants will, for the most part, continue with the open table platform, and reservations will be required for lunch and dinner at all those full service locations. And in terms of night dining, 4 Points and Ragnar's, the great programs that we offer, both the cat, the travel in cabin cat, and the cat sleigh to Ragnar's will not be in operation this winter. However, Haymaker will continue to offer their horse-drawn sleigh ride program. And we are looking to bring back lunch 5 days a week at Haymaker as well this winter to both help support the Nordic operation, but also provide additional recreational opportunities for people that off the mountain, if you will. So I think that's really it from F&B at the mountain, and I would just encourage anyone that is looking for more information that Lauren and her team have obviously just done a wonderful job on our steamboat.com /the trail forward to find a ton more information in terms of what's happening at the resort and across multiple departments for the winter. So that's it. Thanks a lot.
Awesome. Thank you, Rob, for the detailed update. And on similar, but just a different, slightly different topic, I think one of our future Steamboat Ready webinars, we will hear in more detail about the flight program and how things are going, but great to see that the Southwest 3 times daily flights from Denver are loaded and ready to go, along with many others. So thank you to your team for working on that.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rob. All right, next up, I'm going to shift to Robin Cragen. He is the owner of Moving Mountains, as well as the chair of our lodging association, to provide an update from our lodging industry. Robin.
Hi, Cara. Thank you very much for the opportunity to provide an update. I can't thank you guys enough for creating these communication channels. The Lodging Association has met on a regular basis, and I've really heard from a lot of members there how much of a lifeline these communications have been, and also appreciating that it has provided us with a really good forum from health officials and county commissioners and city council. So Jason, if I think you're still on here, just really appreciate when government comes and participates in these forums, because I feel like we're all feeling like the communication is one of the things that's really going to help us get through this. You know, the outlook from the Lodging Association is, I would describe as, again, cautiously optimistic, but actually very upbeat based on how summer turned out. There was a great deal of uncertainty in the spring, and as we all know, that summer turned out much better than we expected, and not just from a demand perspective, as we saw that demand building through the summer, through July and August, people realizing that the mountains offered them a way to escape and to be safe, but also for us to navigate that in a way that protected members of our community. And you know, I believe that that is what has enabled us to make a really good case for safely operating through the winter months. So we are switching our thinking from being more reactionary, which is, I feel that that's how we've had to respond to the uncertainties and the many different changes that came our way over the last few months. Turning our playbook, or creating a playbook that allows us to be more proactive and to anticipate what's coming. We still feel like there's a lot of questions out there, just as we're trying to establish new policies for transportation. We want to make sure that we can continue to offer lodging in a safe way. We realize just what a lifeline this is to the community. We need to have a safe way to bring people here. We need to have a way to get through the season. One of the most encouraging things that we're hearing from everybody is that where 4 months ago we really weren't sure if the phone was going to ring, we really were concerned about the idea that although we could see people driving to Steamboat, would people choose to fly here, because flying in itself presents a number of different challenges. And we are seeing overwhelmingly that confidence is returning to our travelers. The Steamboat booking policy, allowing people to book now and actually guarantee their access to the mountain, has turned out to be also very beneficial. And you know, those two things together have created a demand for booking that we didn't necessarily know was going to be here 4 months ago. So I'd say the booking pace is good, and it is now switching to a question of how to most safely navigate the next few months, to create a playbook of solutions, to be able to understand from health officials what kind of guidelines can help us get there, and to create consistent policies across the community. And we're really promoting the idea that we may all face some unexpected challenges through this winter. And the more that we can focus on doing this as a community, you know, with enlarging, you worry about whether your laundry is going to be delivered if you had a problem with a vendor or a supplier. And, you know, we know the virus is still out there, and we know that it could impact any one of us at any one time. So if there were transportation issues or laundry issues or housekeeping issues, what can we do, as I promote it as Team Steamboat, to get through this? What can we do in a collaborative manner to help each other through this? Because community is something we speak a lot about in Steamboat, and I think it's something we do live and breathe. And I really feel like the winter will maybe even be an opportunity for us to demonstrate that to each other at another level. So I feel like there's a lot of collaboration within the lodging community right now. There's a lot of really great conversations happening. Information is being shared, which I think is key. I think forums like this is absolutely part of our roadmap to having a successful season. But the outlook is very good in terms of the demand is there. And I think it's down to us to just figure out the best way to get through the season. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thanks, Robin. Appreciate it. And I know that we just kind of, as you mentioned, we're going to do our best to help these different industries work even more collaboratively this winter. We want to make sure that all the lodging properties know and have easy access to all of the restaurants that are doing dine-in and takeout, so that all of our guests can continue to support our great local businesses as well as our retailers. And we have Lisa Popovich with Main Street, who's going to give a retail update. Thanks, Lisa.
Thanks, Kara. So we had a pretty good summer, considering what we all had to face downtown and throughout town. And as you all know, if you were trying to find a bike this summer, it was really hard. So sporting goods certainly carried our retail numbers, and I believe they will continue to do that through the winter. So if you need some sporting equipment, buy often and early. Having said that, we are in a natural off season right now. October, November, and part of December is typically slow. Our retailers are receiving shipments and getting ready for the winter. This year, more than ever, it will be important for everyone to shop local. So we are working with the Chamber and with Mountain Village Partnership, as well as the pilot, to put together 2 different programs, one for November and one for December. Those are in the planning stages right now, so I can't really elaborate on what we're going to be doing, but we do have two pretty interactive and aggressive plans to hopefully get people to shop locally this holiday season. I think that all of us at times have to purchase online, and we have found that in the last few months, those deliveries don't come as quickly as they have in the past. So perhaps it is time to switch and look for a local alternative. I will say that we are very grateful to our second homeowners who came and spent the summer with us. They really did come out and support our local retailers. And that is evidenced in a lot of the increases we saw in some of our specialty stores. Having said that, we can't rely on them to do that every year. So it is so important that we all shop local. As you know, when you do shop local, 80% of your dollar stays here in Steamboat. And that really is what keeps the engine of Steamboat humming right along. As we go forward into the winter, one of our initiatives down here on Main Street will be to encourage retailers to stay open till 8 o'clock. I know this sounds like a very small detail. It's a very difficult detail, and convincing people that's the right thing to do. We think, especially since we're going to be talking about restaurants today, especially in coordination with the restaurants, there will be less places for people to wait. You can't wait inside the restaurant, really. You know, obviously you're going to need to make a reservation, but people might come down early. We want to encourage our retail partners to stay open so that they could perhaps have places to go while they're waiting for their tables, and that could encourage other shopping. In addition, I just want to elaborate on something that Jason brought up with the CARES Act. In coordination with Kara at the Chamber, the Chamber will be sending out an order form for businesses that you can fill out and email to Main Street Steamboat, info@mainstreetsteamboat.com. And we'll fill those orders, and you can come down here and pick them up. We'll coordinate with you. This week we are just handing some out preemptively to, you can't really see because it's not behind me, it's all in front of me, but I have a wall of disinfectant and masks and wipes and gloves. So we're handing some of those out ahead of time, but it will be available to all businesses, not just retail and restaurants. So if you're a physical therapist or you're a dentist or any other kind of business that happens here in Steamboat, you can order those supplies through the Chamber. So thank you, Kara. That's all I've got.
Great. Thank you, Lisa. And I just, kind of the theme today is restaurants. Thank you for your work on the Restaurant Week. It's another great event to have. But really quick, a couple of Chamber updates. As mentioned from others, continue to work on our communications. Robin touched on it, that we have a number of industry work groups that we're still in touch with. If anybody doesn't feel like they're in the loop or connected, please reach out to me and we will make sure that that changes, because we have a lot of different groups that are meeting and trying to stay in touch and work together to strategize rather than doing that on their own. So please do reach out. We also have been working with the city as well as the county on additional resources and support that may be available. One of which Lisa just talked about with the supply order. Thanks to the city council and city for making that happen. And Lisa and I will help to get that out. And I will keep everybody in the loop on additional resources that we are able to make available down the road. We completed our second economic impact survey about a month ago. And the top 3 concerns and challenges that we heard from business owners were decline in sales, mental health of their employees, and then employees getting sick. So those are 3 areas that we continue to focus on and provide resources and support on. And then one other item that, since we have a second, just wanted to say we're working with the Steamboat Springs School District on their substitute needs, which is fairly dire, but you'll be hearing more from us on that. We participate at a number of different levels in terms of childcare and childcare support, knowing how important that is to businesses' success. So, and that's one avenue that we are focusing on for the time being. But without further ado, I'm going to shift over to our main presenter today, Rex Brice. He's the owner of Rex's Family of Restaurants. I don't think he needs much of an introduction, but happy to have you here. And Rex, thank you for your continued support and leadership, not only for this industry, but for our community as a whole.
Thanks, Kara. I appreciate you having me. I'm gonna cover a fair amount of information today, and I'm going to do it fairly quickly. So I do encourage people with questions to ask at the end. I'm happy to fill in details as needed. I should start by saying thank you to the Chamber and the city and the county for all their work in ensuring that restaurants had a successful summer. The work that group did was critical, and we truly appreciate it. Our entire community has stepped up to develop creative answers for some complex questions. I think it had a door of success. So we appreciate that. A lot of people have heard me say recently that it's just not a very fun time to be in the restaurant business. Having said that, maybe I'm changing my tune. It's actually a pretty exciting time to own a restaurant and to be in our industry because there's a lot of opportunity, and with adversity comes some exciting change. and innovation. So that those things are fun. And I said to my team right after COVID hit that moving forward, it's going to be easy to see increases, because when you start from zero, it doesn't take much to have a better day the next day. Anyway, it's looking at our industry, it's no surprise that we're seeing some creative solutions coming out of businesses. And I think if there is a group that can survive a challenging time like this, I think it is restaurateurs. So in the end, I'm cautiously optimistic, like you've heard from other people say today. And while we have some challenges ahead, I believe that from this crisis will come some innovation, and it'll give us an opportunity for some of us to move out of our comfort zones a little bit. As always, and you've heard other people say this, safety of our guests and our employees is key. It is truly our main focus today. Without it, we will not stay in business. It doesn't matter what other efforts we put in. Restaurants have always been tightly regulated, and now the industry is doing double duty to ensure the safety of our guests. Some of the things that we're doing that are a little bit above and beyond what we would do before is some extra sanitation policies. While we said early on that there are a few industries where you sanitize after every guest, and the restaurant industry is one where we have always done that, but we have stepped that up and increased it and are sanitizing all surfaces. Constant health screening of our employees is key. Guest lists and contact tracing is being managed at all restaurants. Creative use of space for seating, expanded areas for seating concepts. And then pickup has played a large role for people who either don't want to come into restaurants or are unable to come into restaurants. So those are some of the additional things that we're doing. Kara talked about, or Lisa talked about mental health. I think Kara mentioned mental health, and that is something that we're really focused on within our organizations. You hear all the restaurateurs talking about it and making sure that their employees are safe. We've set up a fund to help employees with mental health crises, and we are seeing some of that. It's a tough time for industry workers. Going back to the spring, the chamber, along with the Restaurant Association, created an industry work group that pulled restaurants together to solve problems for our industry. And as you can imagine, it was a pretty bleak point in the spring. And working with the city and the county, we were able to affect some change that made a huge difference to restaurants through the summer. With the changes that were implemented, most restaurants were able to do far better than they expected. And with a combination of outdoor dining, relaxed liquor laws, thanks to the city, carry out, and exceptional weather, which obviously isn't helping our fires, but helped our outdoor capacity, restaurants saw close to normal sales volume. I wouldn't be surprised if you talk to restaurateurs that said that they had their best summer ever. Others struggled a little bit more, but I would say that overall restaurants were probably down a little bit, and we will certainly take that. I would say that that's a tremendous success. In addition to that, operators, when you talk to operators, people were able to cut costs. So I always say that the top line doesn't matter. It's the bottom number that matters, and so I think that people found efficiencies that they didn't know that were there, and we'll carry those efficiencies moving forward, and we'll operate more profitably in the future. Kind of one of the positive things that comes out of a tough time like this. So overall, as you've heard, good summer. Fall, now that we're here, once we saw what summer was going to be, which was quite a surprise, it was pretty clear that fall would be busy. Lower seating capacities have less of an impact during slower months when you aren't filling all your seats anyway. It's easy to double your sales when you only did 10 people on a given day last year. So doing 20 isn't too tough. And I think there will be days in November where we see that. So having increases in November won't be too tough. It won't make a big impact in our overall year, but it certainly helps. So what restaurants are focused on right now is really preparing for winter. Everybody is buckling down, adding to their capital improvements list, doing work to restaurants to prepare for dining to move indoors the winter. So we'll all be busy spending a little bit of money and making sure that our spaces are safe for guests. So to date, it's been an interesting ride. As you heard from Robin, fortunately, people wanted to be here this summer, and we were lucky. As I speak to people in the metropolitan areas, friends of mine that own restaurants, it's been a tough ride. They were hit a lot harder than we were. Many restaurants have closed in those areas, and the ones that have remained open, I've spoken to many, and people are down as much as 65%. So that is not a number that works for restaurateurs, and it's a little scary to consider. And while Steamboat's enjoyed a strong summer, I would say that we're not out of the woods yet. And we've only been open a few months. We're about to move into colder months, and cases are on the rise a little bit. So I think we all need to be diligent and aware and careful. And the restaurant industry is aware of that. We've seen from summer that the demand is there, as Robin said, and our capacity is the issue. Unfortunately, there's no indication that the governor is going to increase dining capacity through the winter. We're all planning on this being our new reality for a little bit. Even with a vaccine, it will take time for things to change. And as much as we'd like to just flip a switch and be done with COVID, that is not going to happen. So indoor spaces will remain limited to a total number of people that can fit in a building and maintain a 6-foot social distance. And they will not be able to exceed 50% occupancy. And I think that's our reality for the winter. I know that's been a big question for people. It's my best estimate is Steamboat's overall available seating will be down 35 to 40%. And I'll explain a little bit of that later, why it's not 50%. But that means that the seats that are available will be full. So it's going to be, I think that the restaurants will be busy for what they have. I also think that means that, as we know, that the carryout's going to take a large role in dining this winter. Restaurants that can find a way to expand their dining or capitalize on carryout are really going to benefit from that and see a difference. So that's important. Restaurants are doing everything they can to keep their employees safe and in sustainable jobs. If you think about people staying well and safe, a big part of that is making sure that they open, because without the restaurants being open, people just don't have jobs. So in being proactive, I think what people will see this winter is you'll see restaurants closing proactively due to quarantined employees who have maybe had contact with a COVID positive individual. And so I would urge people in the community to recognize that just because a restaurant's closed doesn't mean that it is an unsafe place to be. It might mean that it is a very safe place to be, that they're being proactive in their actions. The other thing to think about is that a lot of restaurants, if you think about a restaurant having maybe say 4 line cooks on, if 2 of those line cooks have been hanging out with somebody who knows somebody who has COVID and they end up staying home, it is possible that restaurant will not be able to open because they simply just don't have the staff to do it. We saw that through the summer with Rex's and some of my other restaurants. Rex's, we didn't even open Rex's for breakfast and lunch this summer simply because we didn't have the people to operate the business. We also had some rolling closures through the summer, simply to give people a day off. People were working hard, were short-staffed, and needed a break, and so we simply closed the restaurant to give them that break. So our community's got a big job ahead of it, and our next goal is to get to protect our neighbor. To get to that protect our neighbor status, the next step, we've got to kind of pull together as a community and do some hard work, and people need to wear masks and social distance and do their part. So what restaurants are doing to prepare for the winter specifically, to talk a little bit about why it's a sort of a 35 to 40% reduction in seating as opposed to a 50% reduction in seating, is that people are being creative. As you heard Lisa saying, people are putting up tents and yurts and whatnot. Mountain Tap has purchased some gondolas that they're putting outside. They can fit individual parties of up to 6 in those gondolas. That'll give them additional seating capacity. You'll see that Aram has added the yurts. It's been a real good idea of Phil's to do that, and they'll add 6 yurts with a capacity of around 6 people each. It adds 36 people to their dining. Plus, he'll utilize his private dining room in our to people, and so his capacity won't be down that much. He'll really be able to capitalize on the space that he has and some creative thinking, where some other restaurants just don't have that opportunity. They'll be truly limited, and if they can't capitalize on takeout, it's going to be a long winter for them. It's going to be a tough 5 months. So looking at what Rex's family of restaurants is doing, to give you some ideas, we've really expanded our carryout options at all of our restaurants, really with the exception of Creekside, adding Chow Now as an order platform that makes it easy for people to order. Guests should keep an eye out at my restaurants as well as other restaurants in town for family deals. Makes it easier for the restaurants to produce and provides potentially a sort of a money saving opportunity for the guest. Rex's has reopened for breakfast and is planning on, we now have in addition to our full service breakfast, we'll have a carry out breakfast option similar to Little House that'll be available through the winter and open 7 to 2. Really think that people on the east side of town can take advantage of that. Maybe a great way to grab a bite to eat, to carry up to the mountain, to go skiing and that kind of thing. We also are able to access or utilize our banquet rooms to increase our seating capacity. So that, along with carryout, is really going to help Rex's. It'll be one of the restaurants that really benefits from that ability. Mazzola's does not have an ability to expand, but we will lean on carryout as a means of generating more revenue. Hopefully that works well. Salt and Lime is Jan Lomas, who owned the Artisans Market next door to Salt and Lime, is closing, not due to COVID, but because she is retiring. She's closing after 40 years in business and opening up that space. And so we have leased that space and we'll bust through the wall and double the size of our dining room, providing some additional seating and an opportunity for us to survive this winter. Laundry and Creekside have the opportunity to bust through those walls, and Laundry will be able to use Creekside's dining room, and Creekside will be able to use Laundry's dining room, and will help those places. Hopefully that kind of gives people an idea of some of the creative things that restaurants are doing in our community to get through the season, and look forward to next summer when we can open patios up again, and hopefully things are looking a little bit better with the COVID front.
Awesome. Thanks, Rex. A couple things that I just wanted to expand on a little bit more on. Our community has, across the country and around the world, been talking a lot about frontline employees, and our community has a lot of them. Almost everybody that works for you, Rex, and in so many different industries. And we had our Navigator Awards last night, and Sonia Fiddler, who won Business Person of the Year, made a point to encourage everyone to ask, and not just like in quick passing, but sincerely and truly ask how friends and neighbors and coworkers are doing, because everyone, this has been a long haul and we have more to go. So thank you for taking care of your team and setting that example. And if anybody needs additional resources on that front, please do reach out to us and we'll make sure to connect you with those. On the spread that we've been seeing a little bit recently, a little jump up in cases, at the Board of Health meeting yesterday, the commissioners and Board of Health were discussing what was going on, where was this happening, and it was really great to hear that there was not a pinpoint of this is happening in this industry and these businesses. A lot of it's happening in private gatherings. So I know that's hard to hear, because in some senses, because it's, there's somewhat less control over that, but it's also great to hear that that's not a key component or a hot spot of where where COVID-19 is spreading. So thank you all for doing your part. And as Rex mentioned, more, I would say on the individual side, we all need to step up our game and continue to wear our masks and wash hands and stay as distant as possible. I think that pretty much wraps it up for today. Again, we'll have information coming out about the supplies that are available, and hopefully some news on other resources that we can bring to you all. My hope is that our next webinar will have Roberta Smith, who is the Public Health Director, join us for the Steamboat Ready webinar to just dive in a little bit further into what her and her team are doing and how businesses can further their work in mitigation protocol, especially as we're going into this winter. It doesn't look like we have too many questions. Oh, just more delivery options. Rex or Rob, do you guys want to talk about that? I know Rex hit on it a little bit, but instead of not just to go, but delivery.
I'm happy to touch on that. I think that delivery is key, and that any business that can provide delivery will benefit from that. One of the big challenges that restaurants are going to see through the winter is going to be staffing. So restaurants kind of need to focus on their core business and then look at ways to expand from there. So hopefully there are some restaurants that can provide delivery options for people to avoid and eliminate traffic downtown. Because as you've heard from Jason and Robin, shuttles will be an issue, and transportation will be an issue this year. So I agree that we need delivery options, and hopefully the restaurant businesses are able to provide that.
Yeah, and Rob is doing putting into place some exciting stuff with bringing food to people on mountain, which is awesome. Rob, you touched on that briefly, I think, but do you want to hit on it?
Yeah, no, I mean, as far as the mountain goes, we're, kicking off the Pizza Ranger and what that might look like. But, just in collaborating with the, restaurateurs on our biweekly call and understanding some of the success and the learning that's happened around the whole takeout and to go, that is an opportunity, and one that we, need to dip our toes into a little bit more and understand. So
yeah, and on that, just to try to make things a little bit smoother, we are working with the city to create to-go parking spots. So like the 15-minute parking spaces in different places throughout downtown. So at least it will be a little bit quicker if they're able to get down there. And as much as I again, I'm trying to spread the word that to those people that know friends that occasionally drive for Uber or Lyft, this winter will be a really great one to allocate some extra hours if they have it, because I think just with our shuttle and transportation challenges, as well as delivering food, that will be something that our guests will be happily pay for the convenience and ease, and then not mingling with a lot of other people. So help spread the word on that. Any other questions, comments from our panelists? Okay. Thank you guys so much for being here. We really appreciate it. Thank you to the panelists and Rex for the main presentation, and thank you to all the attendees. Again, you guys are doing all of the mitigation protocol, and I so appreciate that, and helping to remind our friends and family to step up our game, not let our guard down, so that we can all continue to stay open, and that our residents can continue to have that meaningful employment. So thank you all. Have a great day, and we'll see you in a month.